And we will do a live translation. All right, there we go. All right, we might as well get started then. My name is Kevin Gunn. I'm coordinator of digital scholarship. And today we're going to do some basic text analysis using AntConc. I presented this webinar workshop about a year ago. And since then, in December, they changed a lot of the interface and applications, that sort of thing that you can work with here. So I thought, okay, let's do this again. Do another workshop. A lot of it is relatively new to me, so bear with me if I go down a rabbit hole here. But I think we'll have quite a bit of fun doing this. It's really improved in terms of how it works, the performance, the speed, some interesting options that they've added. They've also taken away a couple of things. So it's good to know. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get started here. So just to give you an idea, sort of a background if you want to geek out on it, it was originally built in Perl. Lawrence Anthony built it in Perl and it had its issues. He's since redone it in Python, and I think that's added to a lot of the performance issues being removed. This is very much quicker interface working. He also had an SQLite database, or SQL if that's your preference, a database so you can actually put in SQL queries and search the database that way. It's kind of neat. He's also installed a Corpus manager in here, so you can add your corpus and manage it much more effectively than before. Before you had to load files and then unload them, that sort of thing. Now now it's much easier in that respect. But what I really like, what they've really upped their game here is that before you can only search text files. Now you can do text, Word, and PDF documents, and it seemed to work quite well. I've practiced with a little bit. I suppose at some point, it's the quality of your PDF file may come into issue in that, but if you have a very clean PDF document, then you shouldn't have any problems. All right, so my ambition here is by the end of this tutorial, you can create and download a corpus of text, at least show you how to do it. You conduct keyword in context searches. You can look for patterns surrounding a particular word. It's always a great thing when you're beginning searching a corpus. You can use more specific search queries, and I'll demonstrate a couple of those. There is a dimension of statistics involved here. If you know statistics, that's great. If you don't, they may be a little challenged in some parts of the software, and that's okay. I'll point them out to you and we go from there. So there are statistically significant differences between words and corpora and that sort of thing. So we will be using the Brown corpus of American English. Before we had to give it to the viewers, the students, and load it in, and I could demonstrate how you do that. But now they do have it as a backup corpora corpus default, so they've made it much easier. Anyway, this corpora has been around since 1961. It's about 1 million words in American English, and it covers, it samples from 15 different text categories, everything from news reports to government reports to humor, articles, that sort of thing. And it makes it a very good standard reference in that sense. It is very small compared to a lot of corpora out there, and it is dated. I mean, it's 1961, and they've redone it and that sort of thing. But this is still useful in terms of demonstrating. I would recommend, if you really want to know, start looking, you can go to for Corpora. You can find them under english-corpora.org or corpusdata.org. So there are two different places to get you started if you're looking to do that type of linguistic research. All right. So that is that, and I am now going to switch. Here we go. I'm now going to load AntConc up. If you want to follow from home, that's great. You can use the handouts. That's always a good thing. All right, I have that, and I'm going to do a new share. Where'd you go? All right. Okay, so here we are, and you should be seeing the AntConc interface. So before we get into any of this, just to let you know, if you have any questions on that, you can type in the chat, or you can just unmute and ask me a very quick question. So not very formal session here today. We'll walk you through this and we'll see how we go. I've given you a handout called Techniques in Corpora Searching that you should have in front of you. I'd like to go through this very briefly. As I said, there's a lot of words up here. You see keyword and context quit, concordance, plot, you have clusters, n-grams, collocates, word, keyword, that sort of thing. There are a lot of terminology and glossary you have to sort of develop when you're working with software like this. So sort of giving a very quick handout here. So I like to go through it very quickly. First concept you sort of want to be aware of is frequency. So that's usually the number of items of a given type in a corpus. So you have all words, all nouns, that sort of thing. But that's good. That's often called what we call raw frequency. So you type in a word, it comes up 14 times in a corpus, and you go, hey, great, what does that mean? So you can search to see across different texts to see what word is mentioned more often in one text than another text, which is useful, but it's very limited in your understanding of the text. So what you could do is go to the next level and look at normalized frequency. So you always want to ask the question, compared to what? So you often need to compare with another corpora. So you compare the British corpora, for example, with the spoken with the written British National Corpus, for example. So if you look at something like in the written British National Corpus, if a word's mentioned 9 times, so it's 9 times the size of the spoken BNC, so we tend to normalize that. So to put it another way, if a word is mentioned 9 times in this particular corpora, corpus, which is very small, and then it's mentioned 10 times or 15 times in this corpora, which is very, very large, how do you bring them together so you have an understanding of it? So there's a little formula that they have here for normalized frequency, and that is you take the raw frequency, the number you have, you found with that particular word, and then you divide it by the token number of the complete list, and then you multiply it by the common base. So looking at, for the brown corpus, for example, we have a little over 1 million words in there. So that the common base would be a little over 1 million words, for example. So you go through and you can see which corpus may have better value for your research. So the next concept you want is want to know about is co-location. So you have the systematic co-occurrence of words in use. So words which tend to systematically co-occur when they are presented to you. So you tend, for example, if you have the word telephone, sometimes operator will come next to that. Or maybe if you have the word back, then front may be nearby, that sort of thing. Or if you have the word tell, you have story. So they're words that sort of hang out together, if you will. So one of the things you want to look on is mutual information. So how closely related the words are will show their affinity. So the higher the mutual information score, the MI as it's called, the more affinity two words will have. So we compare how frequently the words appear together with how frequently they occur without each other. So this method is limited if you have a data set that is low in terms of frequency. So for example, the cluster tool that we'll look at and the n-gram tool are ways that we can see how words can be related to each other, as well as the co-locate function. Now there's a specific type of co-locations called colligation. So there's a strong relationship between a word and a particular grammatical class is said to be collocated. So, if you're looking at collocates, then you have particular words like back or front coming together. Colligation is very specific because it deals with a particular, can be a particular word, and then you have a grammatical class. Instead of just a word, you have a grammatical class. So for example, Mr., there's going to be a proper noun that comes right after that. So that would be the grammatical class there. So you also have the concept of semantic preference. So the lemma or word forms are a set of semantically related words. So what do you think when you think of the word diamond, for example? Well, that could mean different things, right? It could be a gem. It could be playing cards. It could be baseball, love, marriage, that sort of thing. So you have different associations with a particular word. So something that you're working with, you have to be careful of. Another concept is discourse prosody. So that expresses the speaker's attitude. And there's a lot of sentiment analysis going on out there, everything from Twitter, Instagram, whatever, where they're looking at different words in that. But it does have particular attitudes of the speaker. You do have words that often, through something like AntConc, you can discover words that colligate with pleasant or unpleasant results. So for example, the word cause, it can be associated with problems, damage, death, disease, concern, cancer, pain, trouble. So you can, so for example, you can cause an accident, cause anger, cause chaos, cause doubt, that sort of thing. So there's different ways that you can look at discourse prosody. The big thing is keywords. So you're comparing the frequency of words between two or more corpora. So what if the corpora are not the same size? As I mentioned earlier, you have to manipulate the frequencies. So you can statistical significant tests to demonstrate that certain word in corpus A is more frequent than it is in corpus B. In this process, you focus on the words in corpus A that characterize that word. And these are the words that are usually unusually frequent in that data set, if you will. So there's a lot of comparing and contrasting in that sense. So you have to ask yourself too, when is a word a keyword? So using these tests, you can get a number, but you can still need to determine the threshold in order to say that you have a keyword, have a particular keyword. So a minimum frequency threshold is set. So you're not just looking at trivial words. So there's things like lemmas. I gave you a lemma set. Maybe we'll get to that today. I gave you stop word list. These sorts of things that you have to load in order to get back, I guess, meaningful results and just not trivial words. So you want the keywords to be distributed throughout the corpus and not clustered. So if you look at the top 10, 20, 50 keywords and rank them in descending order of statistical significance, then you begin to see some insights. So common types of keywords would be proper nouns, for example. So discourse analysis usually deals with discourse analysis is about the aboutness of the text, is the way to put it. It's a method of determining why the keywords are there and how they will lead you to get a sense of what the text or corpus is about. So keywords are useful in a number of ways. You can study keywords over time. Given two corpora, you can see how a particular word has increased in usefulness or frequency, I should say, or less in frequency. So they have done a particular study for the word Mrs. It's declined over time from 1931 to 2006, and they use sampling points from 1931, 61, 91, and 2006. So you can see words begin to come into favor or out of favor in that regard. Also, you can have words that are called locked words. So money is considered a locked word. It is steady over time and subsequently can't really be a keyword. The word health can increase over time. So there's a lot of different ways to look at the different keywords that you're using. So that's a very quick overview of some of the concepts that you can use when you're working with your corpora. All right, so let's get started here. Any questions about that? It's a very quick overview of corpus linguistics, let me tell you, but it gives you a sense of what you can expect using AntConc. Right, let's see. So I've opened it up here. I've installed it. I've opened it up. At this point, we can go to File. And the couple of new features that we have listed here is, create a quick corpus. If I were to click on that, it would take me to my desktop or wherever my files are, and I can load them in. And you can tell right here that they list PDFs, texts, and words that you can put in if you wanted to. So that is an option that you can go there. So that's great, but we want to open the Corpus Manager. We want to take a look at that. So I've clicked on that. And now we have some interesting new things that we can take a look at. First thing you can take a look at is the default corpus library here. So we're looking at this, and we've got American English DB. So I'm going to double click on that. And what happens is it gives me a description right here of what it is I'm looking at. And on the left-hand side, and I hope you can see this on the screen, is that it lists all the text. So there's 500 files in this particular corpus, and there's a little over 1 million tokens or words listed there. So you'll notice also the general content where they pulled material from, press reporters, that sort of thing listed there. So it's always good. Looking at this, it reminds me when I teach about data and file management, and that sort of thing. Remember, do give a good name to whatever file that you're using. It'll save you a lot of time on the down end. So you have two files here. You have the American English. If you scroll a little ways, you have what is called the British English, and I double clicked on that British English there. So that is fine that you have listed here. I'm going to go back to the American one. So another feature that you can have, so you can choose that, and it will go right out into the main box, into the main page. You can also click on Return to Main Window here. I'm going to click on Add File for here. So again, you can go here. Now, what is interesting about this is now they're asking you for the database. So in other words, you have to create the database in here before you can load it. So a little premature to look at that, but it's important to know that you can load stuff in here. All right, so I'm going to do the American, and I am going to click choose, and I'm going to go down here, return to main menu. There we go. And if it worked, on the left-hand side here, you will have a listing of all the files. It just goes all the way down. In this particular case, they're all text files. And that's it. So if I wanted to change this up, say I want to do on a different search, I would go back to Open Corpus Manager, and I would have that there. Let's say I want to do a MyTar Corpus here. Let's see what that one is. Oh yeah, so on the left-hand side here, I was practicing and I loaded my own texts in here, and I have on the left-hand side here, much shorter list in that sense. So I could use that. I also have a temp DB listed here, and this is where I loaded up a Word document and a PDF. So let me do that. I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to plug this. So you don't have this in front of you. I just want to demonstrate this very quickly. So we suffered with text files for all this time. Now we have Word document and Word and PDF. So I'm sort of really enjoying this. I think this tool will become much more useful over time. So these are two handouts on social service resources I gave for a recent class. So I did the document, then I made a PDF of it. So it's going to be a very nice PDF. It's not going to be a poor scan from 30 years ago. Who knows how that will work? I don't think it'll work as well, but there it is. I'm going to do a quick search in here. I'm going to do social work right down here. And I'll do a quick search here. So why am I demonstrating this? I wanted to show how it presents. So we have 21 hits listed up here where the word social work comes into play, and it goes doc, PDF, and it sort of goes through there. Now we have two PDFs, and it's sort of slightly different here. So we have an odd number listed here under PDF, which does not seem to be listed anywhere else. So I just point that out to you, that have a certain degree of skepticism when you're looking at your results. Hopefully they will have loaded properly and searched properly, but you do have to have a certain level of skepticism here. All right, so I just wanted to point that out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go under Corpus Manager again. I'm going to double click on American English, and I'm going to return to the window. There we go. Okay, so here we are. We're all loaded up, ready to go. So we have listed here all the different tools that you can have here. So Anthony's combined a couple of things, separate them out, move stuff around, and again has removed some options for searching, doing faceted searching, sort of remove some stuff there. So it's a much more focused tool, but still very, very useful. So what we're going to do here is have a little bit of fun. So we're going to do keyword and context. So I've loaded my text here. I'm not too sure what exactly is in here. So I'm going to just type in the word report. I'm just going to look for that. And you'll notice under my search query, I have words listed here. I have case if I want to do a particular case. If I want to look at regular expressions, that can get quite complicated. You really have to have background knowledge for that. So to summarize for AntConc, if you can have a background knowledge in regular expressions, how to type them up, if you know how to do SQL queries, and if you have a decent background in statistics and knowing when something's statistically significant, if you have that those backgrounds, that knowledge, then this database will be really, really excellent in finding material, this software. But you can still get some sense of what you're working with if you're not really familiar with these particular items. So anyway, enough of that. Let me do this report, and I'm going to do a start. All right, so here we go. And we get 224 hits. I restricted the page size to 100, which means it's going to have to go to the second page. So something to keep in mind. I like to try to keep a clean interface. So I'm going to go up to 500 here. And you'll notice this is no longer pointed, colored. So everything's on one page here. So the first thing to notice, on the left-hand side, it tells you the file that is pulling from. So E, H, I, J, that sort of thing. Doesn't seem to be in particular order, but you get a sense of where all these particular keywords can show up. You'll notice here you have report, report, report. Down here you have capitalized report. And I suspect if we went further down, we have little things like, here's this, looks like a semicolon listed here, or quotation marks, periods, that sort of thing. So it looks for those three letters together going through here. In this case, it happens to be a report, so that's good. So that's the keyword. And it looks like it's ignoring the punctuation. Now you'll also notice here, since we're doing keyword and context, we're looking at the words beforehand and we're looking at the words after that. So we get a sense real quick, where is the word report and what words surround it on both sides. Now you'll notice the colors here, and I'll get to that in a second. You can look down here when you sort options, you can do sort to the right, sort to the left. You can do a whole bunch, both. You can do no sort, that sort of thing. So if I do to the right, I have these three ones here, sort one, sort two, sort three, and they correspond with these three letters here. So if I were to do, let's see, do to right and do that. So it says, okay, don't worry about the word right next to report. We can focus on that. So it's more of an aesthetic thing than anything else, but important to know where these colors are coming from. All right, let me do that. You can also look from here by order by value or order by frequency. Let's see what we get here. There it is. It doesn't appear to change all that much, although we do see some changes. There you go. So there's a sorting that's going on there in terms of value. But what that is, we're not too sure. All right, so we have this listed here. If you want to know more, like I want to look at this first one here, and I said, you know what, I want to look more about this Stephen Breyer. I'm kind of curious. So I can double click on that, and it's going to take me to the particular text that I'm using. Right here, and it lists up here this particular file name, number of token words in here, 1968, and then file types, that sort of thing. So you get a sense where it is, and it'll highlight it down here. And they do have a hit location here. So if you did that, 0, and since we're only looking at the one, it's not going to be very helpful in that regard. So you notice I'm now in the file section here. So I've moved over to this. So this is a very good thing if you're searching through files and you want to look at a number of files together. This is another way that you can search for words, and you can scroll through. If report was mentioned more often here. So if I change this to justice, I search that there. I'm still in the same file, but I have justice listed here. And if you sort of have to squint, but you can see the blue justice here in this document, justice here throughout. So you have file hits listed here of 28, and you can scroll through and take a look at each one. So this is a long document. Oops, let me go here. There you go. I'm clicking on hit location, and I'm going through the text here. So there we go. Okay, thank you for coming, Stephen. I will send you the files and that, and the recording as well. Okay, so do thank you for coming. All right, so here we go. So that is the keyword searching and moving you to the file section here. So we're going to move back to keyword and context. And we're going to take a look at, let's see, on the colors. Okay, I've mentioned the sorting that you can do and the frequency as well. So we're good in that sense. Right, so you have a lot of versatility here. If I were to go, I can do report and just search for report, but I can also do reporting. And I'm going to get much shorter results here, only 45 listed, and you see reporting through here. You have your standard search features here. So if I were to do put an asterisk in here, then this would pull up a whole bunch of different results. So I have report, I have reports, reported, all that sort of stuff. So very useful in that sense if you want to pull very quickly the different conjugations of a word. Not perfect by any means, but something that's useful. Now, if we were to do question mark, we get 81 hits listed here. So slightly different result in that regard. Now we've been searching for words specifically here. So you click on this and you get that. So if I were to take this out and just look for REP, but still have words selected, I'm down to 23. And look what I'm looking for. It turns out I'm looking at representative. In this case, the abbreviation for representative listed here. Now, if I were to take the words out, deselect this, I get 1,916 hits. And I get all these different words. So why am I saying this? You have to be very careful when you're searching what you've selected or not selected and what words you're typing in. And if you're using any truncation, how is that presented and what results you get. So it's important to be very wary of that. So now we can talk about words again, but also look at case. So again, if you're looking for, I'm going to type in report all small caps here. I'm going to look at case. Let's see what we get. We get report, but nothing capitalized. Again, this may be very important for you or not. Let's say I want to look at report with a capital R. So I went from 208 hits down to 15 because I was looking for a particular report that you can put in here. So very good way. Now, if I didn't select case and I did do capitalize report, it wouldn't matter. So here you go, small r, big R, doesn't matter. So important to keep that in mind. All right. All right, so I've shown you words and case. Let me show you one regular expression. Like I said, you can get really sophisticated with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for words that have 20 letters to the right and stop at the word more. So I've already done this search, obviously. Let me just type this in. There. All right, so here's a very straightforward. So I'm looking for the word for, and then up to 20 positions, if you will, after for, with the letters A to Z, small caps listed, and then ending with M-O-R-E. So let's see if this works. No, it does not work. Okay. So let me do this, A and Z, and let me try. Let me do that. Nope, not going to happen. Okay. Let me do S. Let's see if that works. Okay, shoot. My previous example I had, it would pull up the particular word in that. So like I said, you have to play with the regular expressions in order to get something working. Let me see if, oh, no has found. Okay. All right. So I will leave this for now and move forward. Let me make sure I copied it. Okay. All right. No biggie. But that's the sort of thing that you can do. And it would find, that particular expression would find words that had F-O-R and then up to 20 spaces listed there, and then would end with M-O-R-E. So that's how specific you can get using AntConc. All right. So that is that. All right, so I'm going to come in here. Oh, here we go. Okay, thank you very much, Caroline. It was very nice to have you come out. I do appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll talk more in the coming weeks. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye. All right, so we're looking at keyword and context. And we're going to look for to report. So here we have to report listed out here, typical results. But let's say I want to do an advanced search. Let's say I want to take a look more detail. So what I can do, so I can go on advanced search, and I can put in a number of things here. I can do a search query list, whether words case or regex. And just before I do that, I should mention regex is selected, and we don't want to do that. So we want to do this. There we go, much better. So you always have to make sure what you've selected and what you haven't selected. All right, so we're going to go in here, and we have a search query that we want to do. So what we can do is we're going to want to look for report. So I'll add that. But we also want to look for reporting. Oops. Clear that. There we go. And we also want to look for the word to report. So we're just looking for these three manifestations of the word. So before, we can do it different ways: report, reports. We can use truncation. We can look for letters like PORT, for example. If the word's not selected, we can do regular expression. We can do all this sort of different ways of searching. We can also be very specific in a sense. So if I'm looking for these three here, what I can do is I can click on apply and then start, and my 224 goes to 285. Why is that? Because I'm not only looking for report and its manifestations, but also to report and reporting. So there's different ways that you can expand or reduce your results. Getting there. So I'm going to go back in here. And the interesting thing is this is selected as an advanced search, so you have to deselect it, then click it again to do that. So that is one way that you can search for very specific words together. Now, what if you want to look at these particular words? So I have this selected, but I want to look at the context. So I'm going to select context, and I want to find, the word said, has that related there, and also say. So I want to see if there's any links between these two. And I can I'm looking at words here, but I can do case or regex if I want it. The window span will be 5 to the left and 5 to the right. And of course, I can change that if I want to. And I'm looking at in context. So I've applied all that. So let's see, we're at 285, and I'm going to do this search again. Takes a few seconds. And here it is. And what do we have? We have the word report going through here, right? But now we have said, listed here, but also on the left-hand side, we have said, and that listed. So it's a very good way of looking at keyword and concept in context and how they're presented. All right, so I'm gonna get back in here and I'm going to deselect these just to be careful and apply. And there we go. So what we're going to do now is we can look at one of the other tools here. Let's go to plot. This is concordance plot. And what we can do is we see the words presented in keyword and context. That's one way to look at it. Now let's take a look at it in a plot sense. So here we go. And you can tell that we have the particular text, the tokens listed. You also have the frequency of the word report. So you see some are more important, we'll mention much more before than others. You have the normal frequency, so that tells you that this 10 is much more important than this one mentioned one, and then the dispersion here. So it gives you a sense of where it is in each text. And if you want to look at plot zoom, you can actually expand it out if you want to. I'm going to type in 5 here, maybe 4, and you get a sense of the word, but also how report is spread out in a particular text. Not only in a particular text, I should say, but comparing and contrasting with the other texts as well. So just doing a quick scroll here, and I think I will reduce this to 3. And you'll notice there's a little clustering that's going on here. So that's very interesting. So that is the concordance plot in a nutshell. You can see how often it's mentioned, where it's mentioned in a particular text. That. All right. Another thing you could take a look at is collocates. listed here. So I'm going to do reports again. And now we have something quite different. We have the way the words relate. So in this case, we have the word parent, frequency to left, to the right, left, right, and then left and right. The range, in this case, just once, and the likelihood, and also the effect that you have listed here. So if you go down here, this can also help you sort through what you've got. At this point, it's worthwhile, since we started again into some of the statistics, it's worthwhile to go to the settings up here and look at the tool settings. And since we're in collate here, I'm going to select on collate. And what you get here is a lot of the statistical information. So the log likelihood, how confident is two words related together. You're looking at the piece factor. What is, how you want to measure that given here. You also have the size measure listed here, T scores, E scores. So you get into basic statistics and that sort of thing that you can look at through here and you can apply. So I'm just going to leave that as is. So MI is the strength of association. T score, is the confidence in making an association between two words. And the log is the goodness of a fit of a statistical model and the sample of data that you're using. So something that you should keep in mind when you're moving forward. So I clicked on the word presented here, and again, it will take you right to the particular file and the keyword and context again. So. All right, so if we're looking at something here, we can now look at cluster. We're looking at clusters. We want to look at repeated patterns of 2 or more words in your corpus. So in this case, we've got that, and we can do start. So we have the word report, and it shows what sort of clustering we have. So report on, number 1's 24. So that seems to make sense, right? Or if you have the word verb, report that they were not amused, that sort of thing. Report the facts, that sort of, you can begin to see basic linguistic analysis that you can do with this, with clustering. And I should mention down here too, you have cluster size. So cluster size is 2, minimum frequency and minimum range is 1 on each side here, but you can expand that out. Let's see, let's do that. There we go. See if we can do cluster size. There you go. So you can expand that out and see report and also what follows from that. So there's different ways you can manipulate the results. In addition to clustering, you have a nuanced way of exploring clusters with the n-gram. So we can do, let's redo this search. That took a few seconds. And here's another way that you can find common expressions in a corpus, for example. And the n-grams size listed in the open slots and that sort of thing. So gives you an idea. If we're to go to Word, Word is very basic. You type in Word, it'll tell you through the entire corpus how many tokens are of that particular word and the range that they have as well. So at that point, I think I should also just mention in passing under settings here, you have what are called global settings. There's a lot of things you can do with it. You can individualize your presentation. So for example, the search hit color has been blue, but you can change it to whatever you want. You can file settings, you can have full path or name only, various fonts, if you wanted to change that a bit. When you're doing searches, I was using asterisk and question mark, but you can use a whole bunch of different concepts as well. So if you want to combine your searching, you can use this search term or, which is 2 vertical bars. If you're looking at statistics, these are things that you can think that if you need to change, go right ahead. There's also tags if you're working with, if your corpus is tagged, that's very useful. So you have all these different options listed here that you can use. So that, in a nutshell, is how to use AntConc. Obviously, there's a lot more involved, but that should be enough for you to get going and doing some interesting searches. All right. So at this point, if there are not any questions, we can call it a day. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask? Okay, so I guess that is it. No questions. So enjoy your day. And if you have any follow-up questions, you can contact me at Gunn, G-U-N-N, @cua.edu. And you can find me on the web at libraries.catholic.edu. So enjoy the rest of your day and thank you for coming out.